So I want you to take a little journey with me, okay? Going back to 2018. It's February, the beginning of the month. Let's say like February 5th, February 8th. I think it was around the 8th, 7th or 8th. And this was around the time when I was getting really into anime for real this time. This was the second, maybe the third wave. The first wave was when I first got into anime and I discovered like stuff like Death Note, right? The second wave was when I discovered Digibro in 2016. I was watching After Dark content, and I started to get more seriously into anime, as in like watching shows that were not the like getting off the beaten path, I guess, and watching more um, obscure shows, I guess, but still relatively well known within the general consensus of otaku. And the third wave, which is probably the most recent one and the one I haven't fallen off yet, is, or maybe I have, but anyways, the third wave is in 2018. Specifically, it started on the winter break I had for uni after my first semester, which was like late December 2017, early 2018. And that's when I seriously started to get into anime um, for real. I was getting, I went in deep, and I went in hard. I hit the ground running, and I never stopped. So, what ended up causing this, I think I watched like Unlimited Blade Works or something, and Made in Abyss and a couple other shows like High School of the Dead over that winter break, and I got really into anime again. Because prior to that, I was like kind of playing games. Um, like I discovered PS2 emulation, and a couple of the people I was in a Discord server with were into PS2 stuff, so I was into PS2. I was also really into Persona. Like I played Persona 5, Persona 3, and I got a Vita for Christmas, and I was like getting ready to play Persona 4. So I was doing some of that stuff and like Kingdom Hearts as well. So I was into video, and I was playing a lot of Persona um, over that break, and getting into fighting games like Melty Blood and whatnot. But over the course of that winter break, I think something happened. Like I was just home, I was just watching anime, and I was watching good show after good show. Um, like I really enjoyed Made in Abyss, and in High School of the Dead was like surprisingly awesome, and I had a blast watching that show. And after that, I'm like, all right, time to just watch anime, right? Time to just watch a bunch. And something about the winter lends itself well. Like it's very dark. It gets dark earlier. You get home after class. It's just dark, and when it's dark, it's good to just like watch shit, and just like not really pay any attention to things. I guess it's kind of like lazy. So I started to watch a lot of anime. Now, one of the first shows I distinctly remember watching was like Hack Sign or something like that. I have a chart or a picture somewhere, but I can't check it here because this computer doesn't have any internet. It's not connected to the Wi-Fi. But I watched a lot of shows, and I started to get into the habit of watching at least 6 episodes per day. Because prior to that, I was watching stuff fairly irregularly. Like I would just kind of watch anime whenever, watch a couple episodes here, episodes there. Like if I look at my graph and stuff, I'll see like I'll go stretches of time without really watching anything. Or maybe like in a month I'd maybe complete like 4 or 5 shows, and that's about it, or maybe even less. When I went into uni, I started watching more, and then in early 2018, when I came back from winter break, mid January, uh, like I said, I hit the ground running and never really stopped. I was just coming off hot of watching a lot of anime over winter break. Like I would just wake up, watch a YouTube video and eat breakfast, and then the rest of the day was just like watching anime and watching YouTube, maybe playing video games sometime in the afternoon, I guess. But I was just like doing nothing, man. I was just like inside all day, just hanging out, watching all the anime I could get my hands on, and this coupled with remembering all this stuff from YouTube in the Digibro era, that I was just like consuming as much anime as possible. I just wanted to watch everything. Around this time, I was maybe at like 250 completed shows. And then by the time, let's say like April rolled around, April or May, I'd say, by the time that rolled around, I had completed 300, or maybe it was even March. My 300th completed show was F A Tale of Memories. I remember that distinctly because I watched that entire show in a day. Um, a different story for a different day, I guess. Um, but the point is that I was getting really into anime, and I was starting to watch a lot of just like whatever I could get my hands on. I just watching everything, no real attention to quality. Like I knew what was good and what was bad. I had seen a decent amount of anime prior to that, but like I was just watching like battle harems and stuff. I watched like Trinity Seven and Chivalry of a Failed Knight, Rokodai Kishi no Cavalry, um, and like just watching everything. And I started to actually watch anime movies, and I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna watch all the Ghibli movies. Fast forward to February, I was just like consuming anime nonstop, watching. This is when I started to hit like if you look at my mal graph on my profile, like the little charts and stuff, you look on history, you start to see around this time, I started completing at least 20 series, 20 different unique anime per month. And like anime is not really a numbers game, but for me who enjoys seeing numbers and charting stuff and logging and databasing everything that they do in their life, seeing these numbers go up was a very appealing thing. So let me cut to the chase, right? February 2018, February 7th specifically, I'm fairly certain based off my screenshots, which is the only metric, or the only log or record I really have of this event happening. But I started to watch Rozen Maiden that day. That's the point. That's the point of this video. It's for her. So, like it was around this time I had I had already seen NHK. I had seen NHK prior, and I think immediately after watching Rosen Maiden, I would rewatch NHK for the first time because I remember it was around like Valentine's Day 2018. I watched it. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit off topic. I watched Rosen Maiden for the first time that day. The reason I found this show is because I was on AniDB and I searched for all anime that had a hikikomori protagonist because I was pretty reclusive around this time. Like, uh, I would kind of, I would really only go to class, and then that was about it. Every other day I would stay in, and I was talking to nobody around this time. This is when I had the only person I would talk to was the dining center Onesan, and she was the only person who was like hi, and I said hi, and that was the extent of my human interaction forever. And it was also coinciding around this time that I was getting sick and tired of talking to people on Discord, so I just stopped talking to people on Discord forever, and I stopped watching YouTube forever because I was just like I'm gonna stop talking to the world. I'm just gonna completely cut myself off and only watch anime and listen to lo-fi study beats to chill and sleep to or something like that. Like I just had a bunch of those just downloaded to my phone and that's all I would listen to because I was getting really fed up with with people, right? Because I was like I overwhelmed myself with the amount of things I was doing. So like I was watching a lot of YouTube. I was listening to a lot of podcasts. Like PCP was still going on and stuff. I was listening to that, re-listening to that, listening to hours of people talking per day, um, and like just watching Let's Plays and stuff on YouTube. Like there was always constantly something going on. And I was playing like 3 or 4 games at a time or something, and watching maybe 2 or 3 different anime, and maybe even reading some books, like some light novels or something. So I reached the limit, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give up YouTube and podcasts. So I just gave that up for a decent amount of time, at least a couple months, before I maybe went back. I think I went back to YouTube during the summer, but there was a stretch of time where I really didn't watch anything, except with a few exceptions. And I think the reason that spurred this was like the new Digi arc. I think that was around the time May was getting involved. Uh, and I was like, screw Digi, I don't care about Digi anymore. Um, but anyways, I was really only watching anime, and when I started to get into Rozen Maiden, I wasn't really talking to people on Discord anymore, and I think I even left my server at that point. So it was just me and my anime, and I wanted to watch stuff with a hikikomori protagonist. Main character of Rozen Maiden is a hikikomori, because he doesn't attend school and he sits in his room all day and plays with dolls. So I got into the show. I'm like, cool, dolls. I wasn't really aware of like the whole sort of cult following it had around it. Um, but I did know that I really like gothic Lolita and the whole aesthetic of that. Dolls were cool. I like dolls. I like figures, and I wanted to get into the show. So I started watching it, and it was one of those shows that like that was a hidden gem that I felt like I found. Because like I said, I wasn't really aware of the whole cult following it had on like 4chan and whatnot, especially like on JP. The whole Suigintou stuff and the Desu. I didn't even know about the Desu until like after I finished the show and I started to see it. And I was like, oh, that's from Rozen Maiden, right? That's Sui Seseki, uh, the Desu girl. But I didn't really think of her that way because I did it like because there's a few characters who have that same speech style that they just say Desu a lot. I think it's even like a tag on VNDB or something. It's just Desu girls. I don't know. So I didn't really think it was even that big of a deal. Uh, but anyways, like I was just watching the show and I felt like I found some weird hidden gem show that was like something that not many people have found, and I added it to my favorites because I was at the time I was really into it. I still am to a certain extent. And then I watched the first season, and loved it. Second season wasn't super hot on, and then the OVA overture or overture or something like that. And naturally, I enjoyed that a lot because it was the backstory for Suigintou, and that one was also on my favorites list. Suigintou is still on my favorite characters list, by the way. Uh, but yeah, that was the show I watched, and like it was a really important show for me for a very long time, and it still is. Just a show about a guy just hanging out in his room playing with dolls, right? And some of the things around the show that I remember well as well. For example, this is Hex Chat. It's obviously not going to connect because I'm not on my Wi-Fi, but I downloaded the show off the Exiled Destiny uh, IRC channel via XDCC, which is a protocol to download it. I did this because my university blocked P2P, so I couldn't torrent anything, so I downloaded it off XDCC. So it kind of adds to the mystique of the show. Like, oh, I downloaded this off IRC, but I guess it wasn't that big of a deal because I was downloading everything off IRC at this point because I don't stream anime. So it was just like this DVD rip of an old show, uh, and it was just fascinating. And I watched it, and I was like, crap, dude, this is actually really interesting. It was something I found sort of vicariously, somewhat naturally, through my own experimentation of watching shows and saying, I want to dive into this tag thing a little bit and see what it has to offer and what I could find using NEDB and my own wit, I guess, because it wasn't something that I had ever heard of that someone else mentioned. It was something I found, like I said, somewhat vicariously or naturally, I think would be a better way to describe it. Somewhat naturally through like the MAL system, like whatever recommended shows or whatever, or specifically looking for anime with a hikikomori protagonist and or gothic Lolita elements or a gothic Lolita character. So I downloaded it off XDCC from the Exiled Destiny uh, IRC channel. At the time, they had their bots running. For a while, they took them off. Like there was a time when they were like, "Oh, our Exiled Destiny bots are going to disappear forever." But then they brought them back. They're back again, and they're really fast. So that's the deal with Hex Chat. So here's Rozen Maiden. This is the fan sub version of it. This is by IU, who was the subber from back in the day. I have a number of different versions of this downloaded onto my computer for archival purposes. I have the Exiled Destiny. Actually, I don't have that anymore. I have the IU one, which is the fan sub, the original AVIs with the DV rip. I have Hitsuji, who is the person who did the DVD release of it, and they use a restyled version of IU's fan subs, and they OCR'd those off that. And then I have the DVD of it lying around somewhere over there, or over there. I think it's over there, which I bought off eBay because Sentai Filmworks removed it from their store, so you can't buy the show legally anymore. You can only buy the 2013 series. And hey, Pars, what do you think about the 2013 series? I didn't write this comment, but this is exactly what I think about it. That's basically it. That's basically it. 2013 isn't even that bad, but like it's fun to joke on it and to meme it. But I have a lot of fond memories around this show. It was it was something that was really important to me at the time, and I think it still is. I mean, I'm gonna rewatch it and see how well it holds up. But a lot of the memories I have surrounding it, this was really the show. Like even though I could point to something like Maiden Abyss or like Hack Sign or something or High School of the Dead, those shows really were fine. Like High School of the Dead was good and Maiden of the Abyss was good, and Hack Sign was shit, but the music was fucking amazing. But Rozen Maiden was a show that I watched and it felt special to me. It was it was something that really resonated with me a lot, and it was the first thing in many months, at least since watching Lucky Star. I watched like Lucky Star in October. Actually, I watched Koe no Katachi in December. Like I watched good stuff, but this one was different because it sort of reignited the flame within me that reminded me of why I like anime. It wasn't about. Oh shoot! I need to get some tea. Green tea with lemon, tasty. It reminded me of why I like anime and what I look for in anime. It's not about watching the universally regarded 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s. It's about watching stuff that I care about. And that was one of the few things, one of the first times I was forced to reckon with this idea and I guess sort of internalize it that not like it was how would I describe it? It was like finding something specifically for me and enjoying it a lot, despite it not really being all that popular. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Because before I was mostly just watching based off other people's recommendations or being like, hey, this show is popular, let me watch it. I had done my fair share of dumpster diving for shows. One of those first shows I found like that was Myself Yourself. I think that one was probably one of the more important shows of this era, but that was like 2017, a complete year before in like May or something. That was the first fan sub I think I watched too, like true fan sub with like really crappy hard subbed Xvid AVIs. But I digress. Anyways, the point is that Rosen Maiden was a really cool show, and like watching it over the course of those 2 days and in February in my dorm room that I had only lit by like a little, I had like a little desk lamp. You know those lamps with like the metal arm on it, and like you can move it around and shit, and like has a light bulb that you click, like the little metal desk lamps. I had one of those in my dorm room, uh, and my roommate was really never around. I think it was because I was always around in the room, so he felt uncomfortable being there. But it was just like me hanging out in the dorm on my ThinkPad. I had my ThinkPad X220 just hooked up to the charger 24/7, just downloading copious amounts of anime off IRC onto the 300 gigabyte hard drive on that poor computer, not really caring about the fact that I needed to start school assignments on it, because for me it was mostly just about watching anime. Wake up, eat breakfast, go to class, after a couple classes, maybe around noon or something, come back, just like sit down, watch anime, eat food that I brought back um, from the cafeteria. Then I don't know, like whenever maybe if I had another class later, I'll go to it. But it was just I have a lot of memories of me just sitting in the dorm with the dim incandescent lighting of the single lamp, just watching Rosen Maiden with my pajama pants on and this oh my god, dude, that hoodie. I had this gray Walmart hoodie that I would never take off. Like I wore it all the time. Oh my goodness. Like I was just wearing that with my pajama pants and just watching anime on this computer, and I was just watching it like nobody's business. And it was some of the more fond memories of mine, just ever. And the anime that really exemplifies and yeah exemplifies this period of my life was Rosen Maiden. Watching something that like some DVD ripped by Exile Destiny on my computer when I should have probably been doing homework, but they didn't really give me homework to do, and even if they did, I really wouldn't care to do it. Um, at least on time, anyways. Or I I had bigger fish to fry, let's say. Uh, but yeah, just yeah, it kind of makes me a little bit natsukashi, you know, a little bit natsukashi, chotto, chotto ne. But anyways, I'm gonna rewatch Rosen Maiden this time with the IU fan sub version. Got a little bit of some AVIs here. It's gonna be nice and comfy. I'm sitting here comfy, dude. It's gonna be great. Rosen Maiden was a good show.